Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Bridenstine, thank you very much for your presence here today. Thank you for your leadership and vision. I'm impressed by you, as I've indicated previously in other hearings, and I appreciate what you're doing to take NASA into a different realm and take our country with it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. First of all, you said something in response to an earlier question that I want to flesh out, and that's something I've been looking for a while as an appropriator in this arena, the 5-year plan. And I think what, if I heard you correctly, understood what you were saying is that while we have a 1-year, $1.6 billion request for FY20, the administration, you, OMB, and others are working to have, and when they put together their request for FY21, that will then include the numbers that I've been looking for. What is it going to cost over the next 5 years? Despite what you and the senator from Florida had to say, those numbers, I understand, are difficult to come by. But for me and others who are interested in this program, we need to know not what it costs this year, but what it costs over the life of the project. And
yes, sir.
Did I understand your answer to Senator Cantwell correctly?
Yes, sir. So there are trades that we have to negotiate out, and that happens inside the administration, of course, with OMB and the National Space Council, and of course the chairman of the National Space Council is the vice president. So we need to come up with what these trades are, come to an agreement within the administration. Not we have to be careful that we keep our eye on what the goal is. The goal is the first woman on the South Pole of the Moon in 2024, and then once we have those trades made, commit to the baseline, and then make sure we come up to the Hill here and share it with our members of Congress and senators.
When you say trades,
yes, sir.
Trades within the NASA budget, trades within the broad funding?
Within the architecture. So I'll give you an example. You look at Apollo. We had one lander. We had one human lander, and that was it. And because of that, there were major risks in that landing system. Apollo 8 went to the moon without a lander because the lander, quite frankly, wasn't ready. It took years later before we took the lander to the moon. That wasn't years, but months. And so, but the question is, how do we mitigate risk and use our, what didn't exist back then, commercial companies that are willing to make their own investments? And so there's a lot of variables at play here, a lot of knobs to turn, if you will. Some commercial companies want to invest as much as 30%, maybe even more, into the project. So that helps us if they get selected for the project. If they don't get selected for the project, it doesn't help us. We want to make sure they're capable of achieving the end state, but at the same time, we're attracted to the fact that private companies want to make this investment. So depending on how much money these companies invest changes the number. The other thing is, do we want to have just one lander? Do we want to have 3 landers? In my view, we should have 3 commercial landers that are receiving support from commercial industry, and then as time goes on, down select to 2. And that keeps them all very, very motivated to be one of those 2 down selected companies. And so that mitigates risk, because now if something goes wrong with one, the others go forward, and we can stay on schedule.
I didn't artfully ask my question. You artfully answered it, and we both knew what I think I was talking about. But what we're talking about is a 5-year plan for Artemis. And,
yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
That I understand we're not going to have a 5-year plan for everything NASA is going to do. But for us to begin the process of funding Artemis, we need to know how it is at least envisioned, estimated, that money is going to be required into the future. You and the chairman had a conversation in today's hearing that I would highlight. None of this will work. And I need your assistance with the administration, your assistance with your former colleagues in the House. I need everyone to know that if we're going to pursue a more bold plan at NASA, we have to have a budget agreement that allows us to spend the money. And a CR is, as you indicated, is devastating to this cause. And so I would just ask you to rally your friends and colleagues to make certain that Congress understands, while none of us may get exactly what we want in a budget agreement, many things that we do care about will simply not occur in the absence of finding some middle ground, some compromise in regard to those caps. A CR is damaging well beyond NASA and needs to be avoided. Finally, I would add, in 13 seconds, tell me about the international. You and I were at the Australian Embassy a week or 2 ago. What international role is there in Artemis in particular? Anything?
Yes, sir. So we look at the International Space Station, an amazing achievement of not just technology, but also diplomacy. 15 nations operating the ISS. Of course, the United States of America is the lead on it. But we want to take that coalition and we want to go all the way to the moon and, in fact, even grow it from there. That's what Artemis is all about. And this time when we go to the moon, we have a very diverse astronaut corps that includes women. So in my view, the coalition is important. There are other countries. This is another reason sometimes it's hard to come up with what the numbers are, because we need to get commitments from these other nations. And in some cases, they're willing to put forth a good chunk of their own money in order to help us achieve a sustainable presence on the surface of the moon. So,
Administrator, thank you, and thanks to the President and the Vice President for their leadership in regard to space.
yes, sir.